In this video, we are going to show you how to import and manipulate vector graphics. Now, vector graphics are ideal for laser marking, and we'll explain why in a little bit. But first, let's go ahead and import a vector. To import a vector file, click on the Import Vector button in this vertical toolbar. Now, it's important to note that the Import Vector button is different than the Import Image button. If you click on the Import Image button, you will not be able to see any vector files. So make sure you click on the Import Vector button. After you click on the Import Vector button, this window will pop up where you can navigate to the folder where your vector files are. Notice that the Files of Type drop-down box shows you all the different types of vector files that you can import. Note that we have some options here when we open our vector file. We can click Show Preview to see what that vector file looks like, and we can also click Place at Center, which will center the vector file once we open it. However, this vector file is huge, so it doesn't actually fit in a workspace. So let's resize and move this as needed so that we can get it to fit properly in our workspace. To do that, let's zoom out and click on the vector image. And clicking on it will make these small black squares appear along the edges of the file. We can just click and drag to resize the file like I'm doing here. But we can also enter a specific millimeter size in the X and Y size on the left here. Just remember that this lock button locks and unlocks your object's aspect ratio. So when it's unlocked, you can change your object's width or height independently of one another. But when it's locked, any changes that you make to the width of your object will proportionally change the height of the object. Similarly, any changes you make to the height of the object will proportionally change the width of the object, just like I'm doing here. Now that the vector graphic is small enough, let's just drag it into the middle of the workspace. Before we continue, let's talk about why vector graphics are better for laser marking than raster images. Raster images are composed of pixels, and when you try to enlarge a raster image, those pixels get stretched out. As a result, you lose a lot of detail in the image when you enlarge it, and the picture looks fuzzy or pixelated. Additionally, because a raster image is made of pixels, the laser isn't able to determine where the edge of the image is. It has to guess, and the result is inaccurate or inconsistent at best. Again, this results in a fuzzy image, particularly around the edges. On the other hand, vector images do not use pixels. Instead, they're made out of lines. And because they're made out of lines, vector graphics don't lose any detail when you resize them. So you can resize the image as often as you need to within the program and not lose any detail. Additionally, the laser is able to determine exactly where the edge is. Because of all this, vector graphics produce a much sharper, detailed mark than raster images do. Okay, so let's go back to the vector file. Earlier I showed you that when you click on the vector file, you get these small black squares along the edges that let you resize the image. Well, if you click again and you click on any of the lines in the image, you get these arrows, and clicking and dragging these arrows allow you to rotate the image. Now, when we imported this vector file, we imported it as one object, but we can actually break it down into smaller parts. So let's click on this and then click on the Ungroup button in the top toolbar. Now we can see here in the entity list that one object is actually three objects now. The GTS icon, the vertical line, and the text, Schmidt, make a lasting mark. But again, we can break this down further into each individual line. And now we can see in the entity list each individual line. To undo this, all we have to do is highlight everything and then click the group button, and we see in the entity list, it's all one object again. But let's ungroup this one more time and see what we can do with the individual lines. Now the point at which two lines meet is called a node. And in the vertical toolbar, we have the Edit Node button. With it, we can click and drag the nodes around to manipulate the lines. In this vector graphic, all the lines end at nodes. This means that the graphic is closed. In other words, each shape has a complete solid border around it. A vector file must be completely closed if you want to use the fill option when marking. We'll talk more about the fill option in a later video. It's possible to split the node. With the Edit Node button active, click on the node you want to split. Then click on the Split Node button. Once you've split the node, the lines connected to it can be separated. Now we can see that this part of the vector file is open. To connect two lines at a node, highlight the lines you want to connect by clicking and dragging a rectangle around the ends of the lines. Then click the Connect Nodes button. If you want to delete the node, double-click on it to remove it. That's all we have for this video. If you have any questions, just drop us a line in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any laser marking tips or instructional videos.